Hi, welcome to Google Developers Live. This is Mobile Web Thursday. Well, actually, we're not live. We're pre-recording this, and I guess it's not really Google Developers either because you're not one of the gang. So I guess it's just developers not live in a Google Studio. So it's not GDL. It's DNLIAGS. Dinalags. That's cool. Kind of sounds a bit like dinner ladies. I don't know, we could go with that.
Dinner ladies.
Yeah. Anyway, in the studio today, we've got Remy Sharp from off of the internet, right? From down in Brighton, and I certainly hope he's going to brighten the studio. Yeah, this is the third one I've done of this, so I can kind of teach you some TV producing tips. So whenever you do like a complete zinger like that, it's good to kind of look at the camera and just smile and nod a bit, because you want to give people time to recover from their kind of gut-wrenching laughter. I'll still start missing the important facts and stuff. So yeah, you're the big boss of Left Logic, right?
That's right. I run my own little JavaScript-based development agency thingy-majiggy in Brighton.
So let's see what you Hove got in store for us. It kind of works because Brighton and Hove, right? No, it doesn't work.
It's a separate place.
Well, so you built a game for Google I/O, right?
Yeah, that's right. Well, we can demo it now, right?
Yeah. It's called, what is it called? Face balls, ball faces.
Yeah, is it worth? I'll show you the game and then I'll give you some backstory. So
live demos
the
never
game's
fail.
called Headshots. You don't see that bit where we did it earlier and the whole machine crashed.
Oh yeah, if we seem a little bit depressed, it's because we've done a whole half an hour record. It went really well, and then Paul Kinlan, who's our resident DJ today, just started crying. A little tear ran down his face and said, "Machine's crashed, dude. Machine's crashed." So this is our second go at all of this, but it's going to be better, right?
Yes,
we should be positive about it rather than depressed.
It's going to be amazing. So this amazing game is called Headshots, and I'm going to amazingly hit new game, and it's going to give me a PIN number, and that PIN number Jake is going to put into his phone.
I am. This is good filling, by the way.
Thanks.
This is excellent. I really like. So I'm on the pin screen now, and it's nice that when I go into the I don't know if this is going to work. When I go into the screen to enter the pin, it comes up and it's only got the numbers, the digits on there, which is just putting the
no, it's not. It's a pattern. So
yes.
I think I might have not have mobile connectivity, which is yes I do.
We could put an awkward transition in here where we just put like a screen and some hold music until we're ready.
Let's try that again.
And we're back, and we had a massive network failure, right? Because you're using a data roaming SIM card. You didn't realise you were doing that, and you've run out of credit, which has probably cost you quite a lot of money. But we'll take you for a beer to make up for it. That'll be okay.
Beer equals data.
This could be the moment where Remy became bankrupt, but we're going to soldier on. What we're going to do is you've got a pre-record video of the game working, and we're going to look at that. There was a great one where Paul was going to have the whole camera running through us fumbling and making the stream, trying to make the stream work and failing. But Remy, you came up with a good solution there, didn't you? You just fired out a string of obscene words, and that means we can't put it out. So I might use that trick next time.
So yeah, I'm pretty much guaranteed it can never make it to the public.
Exactly. Let's go through the video.
Yeah, I'll walk you through Headshots, the pre-recorded version of the interactive game. So you're presented with a welcome screen. You tap on new game or join game. So in this case, I'm going to join a game. I'm given a PIN number by the other player, which actually is going to be me. So get prepared for your minds to be blown. And then when it prompts you, it asks you if you want access to the camera or not. I say yes, and you can see my face being streamed directly into the camera. So here I get to throw a ball at my own face, and boom, in my face,
nice.
One down. And then the other player kind of flicks back, and you'll see him kind of throw the ball towards me, like that. Awful shot, Remy, terrible. And again, see, now I look like I hit myself in the face with my ball, but I didn't.
So it's actually a live stream there.
It's a live stream. It's UDP data, peer-to-peer. In this case, I was at home using my own local network, which means that the connectivity should be superb because it's basically point to point almost. There is one extra. There is one part that sits on a server, the discoverability of the game. So knowing what PIN number the PIN number is what joins us together in the first place. So there's a web. I hit myself again. The server is running a WebSocket server, which we use to basically go up to and say, what is the WebRTC library, tell me what I need to know to be able to connect to this person. It then sends down this data, this magical data about where that person's located, I guess, and then it starts using things like stun, straight out of Star Trek in fact, turn servers, ICE, because we like a bit of ICE as well, some cool words.
So this is all part of WebRTC,
yeah,
right?
and that then like penetrates all the firewalls and proxies and gets us to hold hands and share data and eventually be able to get that peer-to-peer point. Hopefully, and it's still new technology, that's the thing.
It's good. I deliberately made a decision not to learn any WebRTC because it would make this interview flow a lot better, right? It's not just because I'm slightly incompetent and there's a big part of web technology that I haven't even looked at yet. This is deliberate interview technique. It's quite good.
Sound.
Should we have a look at some of the code that you're using to actually make this connection happen?
Yeah. So, like you, I'm not that well versed with WebRTC. I should say as a caveat that I took I'm a developer with the approach that basically bash away at something until it fits. And I watched my son putting some blocks into a wall, and but basically the way that he was getting the blocks through the wall was the same way as I code. I basically just keep turning it, and once it works, and I move on. Even
if it's not the right shape, it fits.
Yeah, if you can take a circle and turn it so it looks like a square, and push it through a square hole, then superb.
So we should say that the WebRTC stuff that you're using there requires a beta version of Chrome for Android at the moment.
Yes, that's right.
But it's in the full stable version of Chrome desktop, and it's also in the beta version of Firefox
as well. Yeah.
But even though it's in the beta, you're having to turn on some flags before.
So it might be worth just kind of looking at the phone briefly, producer. So down here, oh gosh, somewhere. So you probably have to do like find in page. WebRTC, and there we go. So we've got the WebRTC flag has been enabled manually, and then you get the goodness of the WebRTC technology, which I should, before I show you some code, is 3 sets of APIs. So WebRTC is firstly get user media, which is the API that gets your webcam and basically video and audio. And we've seen lots of demos where people are mashing that up with WebGL and so on. The second part is the data channel API, so RTC data channel, which is like WebSockets but gives you that peer-to-peer connection.
So you're not just restricted to sending video and audio, normal data as well.
Yeah. And with that, there's a flag that allows you to set whether or not it's reliable or not. And reliable, true or false, means switch between UDP or TCP. So you can use this for first-person shooter type games where it doesn't matter how many bullets you fire, maybe. I don't know. I'm not the best games developer, which is why I wrote a game.
I don't call it UDP, I call it UPD.
Because we've done this 4 times, I now know that joke.
I'm trying to recreate all the spontaneous jokes we did in the first record. I don't think that one was actually in the second record. We're having a difficult time trying to do this.
Technology. And the third part is the data channel API. So the data channel is what allows me to stream video into your device or stream video out to multiple devices peer-to-peer. So there's 3 technologies put together that gives you all of WebRTC.
So when we were seeing like the video there and the game logic being sent was just direct from device to device. It wasn't all going through a central server. Okay, so if you're making a game that was player to player, you don't need to have a huge server that could control 100 games at once, because you can sort of pass it off to individuals.
Which does also kind of bring its own problems, like where does the game logic belong? How do you protect your game from being hacked? The way that I cleverly got around that problem was to not put any protection in there. So if you want to hack the game, you can do. If I'm playing Jake and throwing my balls at his face, then I could just cheat and I could say every single one of them hit, and I would win. But obviously I've cheated you, and that would make us both sad. So
it's for fun. It's not a competitive.
Yeah, there's no leaderboard or anything like that. So if I show you some of the code, there's a lot of it's kind of there's events flying back and forth inside of the game. So when the game actually starts, let me scroll up just a little bit. I was actually on the right line of code. Pin change. I have this event that says pin change, which the server would give me a new pin to start the game, and when you enter a pin into your phone to start the Headshots game, it will trigger this event called pin change, which tells the entire application to say, right, go and connect to the WebSocket on the server and send it the pin, and that's the room I'm joining, because we need to be in a room to be able to communicate, to discover each other in the first place. Once we've gotten into that room, it then fires a bunch of events. So
this $on you've got there is
just... So I should say this is not jQuery or prototype. This is I've written my own little library that's min.js, this tiny library, just to give me a few bits of a few shortcuts. So on is an event listener, and $on is just hitting a dummy element. So I've got this one. It's like a simple pub subsystem, and $, is just query selector all with a smiley face, because it needs a value basically.
I completely understand doing that, because I kind of worry about the amount of finger skin that I have lost to typing add event listener and query selector all when it on and $.
So I've got this global event pin change, which then tells the code to go ahead and connect. And this line above, rtc.onConnect, RTC is the WebRTC.io library's global object. So there are a bunch of different WebRTC libraries. I settled on WebRTC.io mostly because the demo was there in the first place. The demo was very hackable. It meant that I had my prototype up and running really quickly. Took me a couple of hours to get my prototype working just based on their code. There are a few bugs in it. I should send pull requests to fix the bugs. There's some others, peer.js, simple WebRTC.js. I've got a feeling there's another word in there somewhere, but maybe not. These are two libraries. I think peer.js only did data and simple WebRTC only did video and audio, but that may have changed by now. This is a month ago or 2 months ago I was working on a project. So WebRTC is the WebRTC.io was the one I settled on just because I needed to kind of hit the ground running with WebRTC.
I think this is the real domain of libraries in the future. I mean, we used to use libraries just to fix all the cross-browser issues with the DOM, but I think if you're dealing with just sort of modern browsers, the need to do something like that is less and less. Like you have there, just a tiny micro library to save yourself some typing. But we've got all of these new web APIs, and there's a lot of them are really low level, like WebGL especially, Web Audio, WebRTC. Yep. So I think this is where libraries can really guide the standards model to sort of show this is the common actions people are doing, and then that will feed back into the spec and hopefully make it simpler.
So like in the WebRTC.io library, there's code that looks for the Opus codec or way of sending video, which is to do with Firefox and getting interoperability between Firefox and Chrome. I wouldn't know how to do that, and they're taking the message and doing some kind of rewriting magic stuff. So magic, that's what I'm looking for out of my library, is magic. Yeah. So when I get this connect event, I then connect the video, which is basically I want to take your face and kind of stream it straight into my phone. And that connect video looks like this. Pretty straightforward. I check that I can do peer connection API. I set up these options, which says video should be 320 by 180. I'll come on to that in a second. And then WebRTC has this helper, create stream, and it fires this callback, which I then trigger a custom event that says the local stream is ready, and if I'm debug mode, I actually want to see it. And the way that I've got my game set up is that I have the local feed is ready, the remote feed is ready. When they're both ready, we're ready to play the game and actually throw the balls. Just going on to this bit, the video mandatory max width. This is to say, basically send the video at 320 by 180, and that's because my game only has a very small kind of icon for the video. I had this kind of assumption that because this was peer-to-peer, that latency wouldn't be a problem, but realistically, if we're playing a game, I could be playing someone in the US from the UK, and still going over the wire, still a lot of data. This isn't a Skype application, doesn't need all that data to be going over wire, so I might as well make it as small as I need it in the game.
It's almost, would it make sense to have a similar option for frames per second? I mean, is it something that you could bring down?
Yeah, I think that there's stuff to do with aspect ratio that you can set. There might be stuff to do with frames per second. There's not all of it's implemented, that's the thing. And I in fact found that this wasn't doing anything for my code because there's a bug in WebRTC.io where it's just ignoring this value, which could be fixed already. But it's really new, this technology. So there's some parts that you read about, like there's mandatory and optional, and I don't know if there's frames per second, but there could well be. It makes sense that you would have that. So
if the device, I assume there's equivalents for minimum width and minimum height?
Yeah, I think so.
So I guess that would be somewhere where, if the device was incapable of doing that, it would kind of announce that, no, there's I
don't know what happens if it can't do, it can't make it smaller. Right. So, so now in this code, we've made a connection to the WebSocket server, discovered the room, kind of shared what room we're joining. We've got your face into the game. So this RTC create stream is behind the scenes. Basically, it's going to send it down the peer connection API. And this piece of code exposes this init method, and the init method inits the connection, and what that does is basically listen for remote streams, which is basically me joining your game. And when I join your game, it attaches the stream, which is the get user media stream, typically, to an element that has an ID of remote. And then I have this extra check, which is where I found problems with this, not this particular line of code, but this is the line of code that blocks the game from actually running. So when we were testing it earlier and we were having some problems, there's some kind of weird network situation where the data channel wouldn't open, and if the data channel doesn't open, the game's not ready to play. And only when that data channel is open does it trigger the remote is ready, or ready remote. And when the ready remote triggers, the game has a full connection, both video and data, as in video and just kind of arbitrary data.
Is this the point where the race condition happens?
Right. Okay. So when the first version of this code, I really wanted to embrace the web in terms of having URLs to access different pages. So I had a welcome page. You hit join. You go to the join page, and you have to put in a pin code. And when you hit go, it would take you to a waiting page, and it would have this hanging XHR request that would sit, asking the server, is the game ready? And the game was saying, I'm in waiting stage, and I'm going to leave this XHR connection open. Now, you would have your phone, or I'd do it whichever way around I started, but and you would start a game, and you would get a pin code. I've done this the wrong way around, but you're still with me anyway.
Yeah, I'm following.
You put you get a pin code, and it has the same hanging XHR request to the server, and the game, the game's 1, 2, 3, and the server says, right, we now have 2 players in the game. Change the state from waiting to ready, which closes the XHR, the hanging XHR request, which comes back to both of us. It refreshes the page on both of our devices, and we're immediately then both asked at the same time, do you want to give access to the audio and video? Do you want to open up a data stream to the other person? And what I found was it would go, yep, there you are, no, it's broken.
So you tried to explain this to me before we started recording, and it wasn't quite going in my head, so we decided, and I'm very excited about the props. You're going to try and explain this.
I have an analogy.
So we have, what do we have?
So this is my analogy for trying to make a call. So I'm trying to make a call to you, right? And I have my WebRTC paper cup phone. And the thing is, you're trying to make a call to me, and you have your WebRTC paper cup phone. So if I put my phone up to my ear, okay, and I try and make a call to you, and you want to do the same thing. So we're both trying to make a call to each other.
I can hear the ocean.
And I'm going to concentrate.
Sorry.
Okay. I'm going to try and make a call to you. So I'm going to give you this side, and you're going to put up to your ear, so you can. That's good. But you're going to give me your phone.
Yeah, because you need to make a call to me.
And then I'm gonna listen, and see, now we're dangling. We have dangly bits, and this is why there was like a flash of the moment I had the phone still. And there's a flash of connectivity, and the moment I kind of let go, it just goes. So that was with the help of Paul Kinlan that I needed to rewrite all my code into a single page app. And by rewriting the code,
are we done? Sorry.
By rewriting the code into a single page app, what happens is you start the game and you get your phone and you make your connection and you tell me what the pin number is, and instead of me trying to dial you, I already know you're there, and you give me the cup.
There you go.
So, and then we can talk to each other.
That's not. Oh yes, that's how phones work. Hello.
It should be ear to ear.
I guess it's
streaming.
I think if WebRTC is, because the model we've built here is you're either talking or listening, but WebRTC can do both, right? So you would have.
I would have a second one for data.
And no, other way around. So my ear to your mouth.
This is why.
And there we go. So that's WebRTC, right?
This is the data. Yeah.
This is two developers who don't know how basic telephony works.
Yeah.
Okay. Excellent.
So
that helped. I think that actually, everyone would really understand what was going on there, especially for the cups.
The thing is, I don't know if there's a bug in my code, there's a bug in the WebRTC IO library, or if there's just a bug generally in the workflow of WebRTC. It was on Paul Kinlan's advice to kind of move to a single page app so that you don't have that race condition anymore. And it solved the problem, and I just wanted to move on and kind of work on the rest of the problem. But one day I'll revisit that and try and work out where the problem is. And the thing is, it's such new technology that we need to be making these mistakes, and maybe that's the way that you have to do it. You need the single page app for persistence. The example I was giving you before is, when we were talking earlier, is if JSBin had a video stream, if you were teaching using JSBin, you had WebRTC and a video down in the corner. If you wanted to create a new bin, and you had everyone kind of following along, you couldn't refresh the page, because when you refresh, it will lose the WebRTC connection. You'll kill it. So you'll need a single page app to say, right, new bin, and it keeps the video, and I can tell the people in my class that here's the URL via the chat window. So someone should build me that feature too. But yeah, anyway, so.
So the other part of it was the graphics, right? I mean, you had sort of things moving in multiple layers. How did you go about drawing what we were seeing on the screen?
So I started off with just DOM nodes, and the idea was I'd use a scale, translate scale, transform scale. I know how to code it, I don't know how to say it, and that would work, right? So I thought I'd sit down with Seb Lyle and just borrow some advice off him, and he kind of went, no, you need to use 3.js. So kind of put aside my lame attempts at doing 3D with just scaling a DOM, which you can do. It's more that I wouldn't have managed to do it. It would look crap. And he pointed out that by using 3.js, we're able to kind of create a camera and a point of view, and there's a real 3D scene there in the first place, and the character that you're throwing the ball at would look the right size and right perspective, and the ball as it went through 3D space would scale correctly, not your dodgy algorithm scaling.
Well,
so
I had the same problem when I was because I haven't done a lot of 3D programming. So when I came to doing something where something was going to go away from the camera, my first reaction was, well, I've got the scale value, I can just move from one to the other, and you start to realize that it doesn't quite move in the same way because it doesn't have the perspective. It's it's scaling linearly, whereas when something moves further away from you, it doesn't scale linearly. And I hacked it by using like a sine wave or something, and it has that sort of uncanny valley of it doesn't look quite right. So that's
what he was pointing out. Yeah, that's what he was pointing out, that by using 3.js to do this properly, it will feel right, it will look right. So I spent a couple of hours with him and created this new kind of scene with the floor and this object it would throw into the scene and bounce off the floor. Great, took that back to the office, loaded it on the Android. I had a beautiful 60 frames a second on desktop, got a beautiful 4 frames a second on the Android, pretty much wept into my lap.
What renderer were you using in FreeJS there?
That's just the canvas renderer.
Normal 2D canvas, yeah?
The 2D canvas, yeah. And it's only post-project I was like, oh, maybe I should have had the WebGL renderer, because I was allowed to choose any technology I want. But, hindsight. So I actually realized that the problem that I was facing was I was rendering a massive scene, or a massive scene for the device at least.
Yeah.
And I found that by putting so I originally had both video feeds going into the DOMs. Both streams of video were fueling these two video DOM nodes, and then I had this big canvas that was being repainted all the time, the entire background, the whole thing. So I changed the code to being I created two 3.js scenes. One is the background, which is the background, the 3D floor, and the character, who is mostly stationary. And then the second front layer is the ball that bounces, kind of comes down, bounces, and then goes off and reacts to the user flicking, basically. And instead of having two videos in there, I got rid of the second video, the video of me, because I don't need to see myself when I'm playing you, and I just have your face in there. And that got the frames per second back up to, I think on Nexus 4 I was seeing it kind of 50 frames per second. Okay, so this is at the end of the project that it kept on kind of dipping up and down, and I would change something and suddenly it'd be 50 frames a second, I'd change something else and suddenly it was 20 frames a second, and I could have just been mashing my keys and that would have kept changing, basically. But
So by having the ball in its own layer, it means you can move that independently without having to redraw the sort of whole background.
Well, it wasn't even that layer wasn't even moving. It's just that there was less pixels to commit to that canvas.
Yeah, and then the compositor does the rest.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So you could see through, and you could see the background of the character. And I would fake the ball would think it's hit your face, but all I've worked out is this is where Jake's face should be, and bounce off of that, and then cause the background, the second layer, with the character kind of animate and fall down and cry and spit blood and eyeball falls out and stuff like that. So
it reminds me of my childhood. I guess what you forfeit then is you wouldn't be able to make the ball go behind the player, right? Because you've got those two separate layers, but you don't have that problem.
Okay, so I did actually I do that. There is some code in there that. Again, with Seb's help. I mean, I'm not a 3D programmer in the first place, and it's kind of showing me, pointing out where the point where the ball in the 3D scene would have moved. So if this is a character here and this is our scene, the ball would move forward, and with the which way is that? X. Let's pretend it's X.
That's X.
So when the X went behind the character, I actually flipped the canvases around.
Right.
So because I was only painting the floor and the character on there, the mountains are actually a completely background, like a CSS background. So on the actual body of the element, so it can go behind him. There are moments where I think the ball can bounce off of something and suddenly it's coming forward, but it's behind. Or
I've seen
there's something like if you hit it between the legs. There's something about hitting that I've noticed. If you hit the character between the legs, the ball's Z-index doesn't work out quite right. But
hang on, what? Okay,
I don't really know. It's tricky to debug. Yeah.
Let's gloss over. Your game is just rife with innuendo. Headshots was definitely the best name you could have picked for this. Everything else is wrong.
There's these little areas that basically I've shaved corners off to try and get a game that works and people can see kind of the technology that is available natively in the browser without plugins. And if there's a few kind of hitches here and there, I'm kind of okay with it. It's the kind of thing that I'd like to go back and revisit, but it's.
What drove the physics then? Because you've got the sort of bouncy physics. Was that just code you wrote, or is that something that's you got to use another library, or is that within FreeJS?
So if I just show you some of the code here, in where is it? The game.js. It again is just kind of having Seb, but I think I knew this already. There's a lot of code in the 3D stuff.
So basically, this is just stuff you wrote, right?
This is code I've written. Seb did give me kind of large chunks like the hit detection. He gave me that, and the projection, which I can explain is mind-numbing. Yeah, so this stuff he gave me when we sat down for that 2-hour session. He's kind of helped me get right as well. I mean, he literally had to come around to my office and kind of sit with me and say, Remy, what are you doing? Why are you doing this?
So I can see there when it hits the velocity is obviously going to go in either direction.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So
yeah.
Right.
So this, because we're doing a multiplier equals, we're basically flipping the direction every time it hits that boundary. So it's not that clever. I mean, there's not much physics there in the first place. It just slows it down. Yeah. It's actually there's no physics. It's not proper physics, at least. There's just. I mean, that's enough of the code. It's not pretty, but it's just multiply by kind of 0.7 each time on each bounce sort of thing. So it just eventually gets less and less and less.
So how did you go about building this? What was your strategy? Were you testing? Were you building it mostly in the browser, or were you building it alongside the phone for the whole development process?
It's a bit of a mix. So certainly, in fact, this is pretty much my workflow generally. I try and do a bulk amount of work directly in the browser. So I've got Chrome and Canary here, but so I do the bulk of my work on the desktop browser. And where I can, I'll be. Let's dock that bad boy. Where I can, I'll use DevTools to do all my development. And I've started using that in JSBin as well. Actually, just using DevTools to do the coding. So let's make this nice and big. I'm a big fan of right-click, save as, and then linking. What's background.js? That doesn't sound like a real file. Oh, confusing. Hang on, bear with me. So this is, I don't know what that is, no domain. You guys build browsers.
Hey, it's your site.
That's true. It's because there's no JavaScript loaded on this page. You have to actually get into a game.
I see.
Yeah.
So the first intro
page doesn't have any JavaScript in there.
That makes sense. So part of the reason, I guess, for building it as just a single page app is because you've got the full screen support in there as well. Mm-hmm. And once you have full screen, if you were to change URL, actually refresh the page, you lose that.
Yeah.
So
So going back to using DevTools here, if there's a bug with the pin code coming down, I will find the code that handles that. So let's just assume it's start.js. And I tend to kind of, just to be safe, right-click, save as, and then put it into the right directory, so JS, and just overwrite it. And I have live reload turned on, don't I? Have I? Let's allow that. And then I'll be just making changes directly into this code, so it's saving directly to disk. So I'm trying to debug what pin number is coming in. So console log pin, save. I think I've got live reload going on.
I like how the sort of DevTools are sort of building up to their own IDE. I think going back a few maybe years or certainly months that there was a kind of a pushback on that. It was like they didn't want it to turn into a full IDE, but I think that's kind of drifting now, and it's nice to see some of those features where you could just start developing straight into the DevTools.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of. Sorry, I'm just disabling live reload. I'm a huge fan of actually coding directly in DevTools. To be able to see, particularly with the animation loops, where I've got a loop that's rendering the canvas each time, being able to just change that inside of the loop and seeing the change instantly is huge for me. Being able to replay XHR, because I'm doing an XHR request for the status of the game, and if it kept coming back and failing because there's something wrong with the server, all I need to do is boot the server back up and then replay the network request, right? And then I get that where is it? Replay. Somewhere, isn't it?
See, this is the thing. This is a part I was hoping you would show me, because it's a feature I've not actually used in development myself. I've always just been refresh the page, do it all again.
Yeah. So
when you came to sort of do stuff on the device, you were using. Did you use the remote tools there? I mean, well, I say that I saw you use it before.
Yeah. So
that's an interview technique to pretend that I don't actually know what you're doing.
The first. Like I said, the first bulk is done on desktop, and then the tweaking and the refinement I do between the phone and desktop. So, do you want me to show you it live on the phone?
Yeah, it'd be cool to see that.
Might have to pause during setup, but
oh well, if it's too much effort, we can do something else. Because it'd be interesting to see, because I know that we've changed some stuff in Canary that makes it easier to do device discovery as part of DevTools. So we had this thing for so long where you'd have to open up a command line. We had a whole sort of ADB thing. I think last time I was here, I was doing that. You have to type the thing that everyone can remember. I can't even remember it off the top of my head. I know it's in my bash history, but we're getting around a lot of that stuff now with the inspect menu in Canary. How's that going, Remy? I'm doing a very good job of filling.
You're good. I'm almost there, actually. So what I'm doing here is basically finding the IP address of this machine, and I want to point my mobile phone to the IP address of the machine. So 192. I hope this works. 168.
I mean, all of the stuff we've been doing so far has been just successful straight away from the first try, which is great.
Out of the box. It's like we cannot do anything wrong here. Oh wow, look at that. Right, so I've got this is literally the setup that I'll use. I'll point my phone to my machine that I'm working on. I'm working in Chrome, so I've got Chrome inspect. What am I doing? I'm not taking that route. So, sorry. I use Chrome, right? I have live reload mixed into things. And say I want to make a change to this font size. Let's see if this just works. Sorry, 1.5 is way too small. We want 7.5. Oh yes.
That's not going to work, is it?
That should have worked. So it should have caused.
Oh wow.
Well, I don't want to hit refresh on the phone manually because I've got live reload in there. It should be doing it automatically.
Oh, there it goes. I was doing that.
So I'm making changes in DevTools in Chrome that. It's saving, because it's saving the style.css directly to disk, it's causing the live reload to trigger, which causes my mobile phone to update, which means I can make those fine grain adjustments. Like maybe the height of the page isn't quite right because there's too much scroll. Like I want to bring the about links up a little bit. I mean, I doubt if I'm going to be able to do this properly, but...
So I suppose you could connect DevTools straight to the phone and make these changes, but the benefit you've got here is that you're linked to the files on the disk on your laptop, and you're getting to see the changes both on desktop and on mobile at the same time. And
I'm kind of hoping that... that's not affecting it now, but I'm kind of hoping that... Because I can go ahead and inspect the page that we're looking at on the phone directly from Canary here. I think I've got all kinds of things running here. So
that's the bit I like, because that's the bit where we don't have to use ADB anymore to do that kind of weird incantation just to get onto the device.
Yeah. This for me is perfect because I've got the newest version of DevTools. I've got all the network stacks. I've hit refresh there. Let me try that again. Yeah, so I've got the full network stack. Here I can, if I had XHR requests, I could replay them actually on the device. My full debugger, breakpoints and so on. The one bit that I'm missing, and since I'm here at Google, I want to be able to use the saving here. I want to be able to right-click, save as, and that will link it to disk for real. And I don't. Maybe that does work. I don't think it works. Last time I looked, I can't do that. Won't save to disk for whatever reason. That might work now. So. Maybe my wish came true just by being near you.
Exactly, yeah. It was definitely me who did all that, and not someone very clever in Russia or somewhere.
Yeah.
Well, cool. So thank you very much for coming in. It's been really cool. And if people at home want to give it a try, it's headshots.leftlogic.com.
Yes.
Right? Because it works on the beta version of Chrome. So if you want to install the beta version, you need to search for it on Google. Because if you search for it in the App Store, it's kind of deliberately not there because we were worried about people installing the beta version rather than we're not worried about you. I'm speaking to the developers now by looking into the camera. I'm not worried about you installing it. I'm worried about people sort of maybe less able like Remy. Or, so
I had to have my hand held to install.
Oh, but it's really
took
good
my
stuff.
phone off me. Someone else did it for me, gave it back, went, be careful.
Safety first, really. We don't want you poking yourself in the eye. But we had quite a few demos done for Google I/O, and it's my favourite.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I mean that sincerely.
You're my favourite Google person.
Oh, thank you. Paul's just pulling faces.
And Paul's my second favourite.
Second favourite, Paul.
This far.
Well, thank you very much, guys. Feel free. We'll put the links and stuff as part of the under the YouTube video, and then there's an area for you to put your bile and hate in the comments below. So we look forward to reading that. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye bye.